Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Shubham and you are watching Let's Create an App. So we have left the previous tutorial over here. So in this series we are going to talk about auto layouts and we are creating a travel app UI which is look something like this. So we are covering this part in the previous tutorial. The only thing which is left that we have to just make them a corner radius, and we are going to cover in this tutorial this sign up screen and which having a various things. So we are going to learn this sign up screen design in this video, and we are going to create a common class for this sign up button kind of a thing, because this thing is having everywhere in our this UI. So we are going to create this thing a simple class so that we only need to assign this thing which I've already taught you in my previous video. So let's start this thing. The link of that video is mentioned in the description. You can go and watch that video. And if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to get the notifications of all my other videos. And if you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. And if you have any query or suggestion, please post that thing in the comment box. So let's start the video. Let's create an app. So now let's move to the Xcode and just create one more class which can be like a simple class. Simply just click on next and give this class something like custom button and just press on create. Now after this class, just close this thing, and I've already copied that code which I will required in this thing. So just type class and the name of the class should be like custom button. The name is the file name, and just change it to UI kit because we need UI button as we are making a subclass. This class is a subclass of UI button. Now I've already copied the code of this button class which I have created in my previous video. Link you can get in the description. So this is the simple method of just putting a shadow, and I'm just calling these things from the init and required init, and just change the shadow to the color which we have provided on the UI. And that like color literal, we can use color literal for that thing, and in color literal we are going to use this thing and just change the opacity to 0. Something like 5, and shadow radius should be like 5. So I'll just update these things. I've used this thing in my previous video. So just simply now we need to move to the storyboard and simply assign these things to this button, the class like custom button. As you press this thing, and now just press over here and just provide the custom button. Definitely you can create two different classes for these two buttons to providing different functionalities according to your needs. It's like orange shadow or a blue shadow, something like kind of a thing. But let's see. So as we have provided these things to you, so you are watching that there is a blue shadow come in on this button, and again the blue shadow is coming on this button also. But we don't want a shadow on this button because this is a single button, similar not of a similar kind also. So let's change this thing and provide something different on this thing. So let's check the UI first, and this is a sign in. So let's make it sign in like this. Now we have to create the outlets for these buttons to navigate from one controller to the another controller. So let's create the outlets of these buttons. Just create a simple action. So for making any kind of action, I'm always using on click, or you can also use action. So it can be just like identical for you, that whenever you try to search anything regarding action, then you only have to type on click and it will come up suggestions of all the things which start with on click. So it's a process which you can follow in your coding. It's basically a coding style thing. And on click of sign up, let's click on click sign in, something like this. So basically this is a kind of a thing. Now we don't need to create any outlet for this sign up button because we don't need to design anything on this button. We have to create this thing a little bit design. So let's make this thing sign in. So the initial, it is a outlet, so I'm just defining what is this thing, the button a label for. If you are using any label, then I'm using LBL. So you can also use these things to make your code readable, and it also simplified your code, because all the developers who are working on this iOS development, or maybe some other, then they are following the same process. So we can do also this thing. Now we have to create one method, or we can first directly define the corner radius to this button. So for defining a corner radius to this sign up button, we can do like button sign up dot layer dot corner radius is equals to, so whatever the height of the button, so button sign up dot frames dot height divided by 2, something like this. Now we need to define a button sign in dot clip to bound is equals to true. We don't need to provide any kind of shadow on this button, so I'm not using that mask to bound also, otherwise we have to use that thing also. Now we have to also define the border for this thing, sign up button border sign up dot border, we need to use layer dot border width, and the border width is like 1 pixel. Button sign in dot layer, we need to define the border color also, border color dot border color, and the color is like right now we have just provided this sign up thing orange, but we are not going to provide this orange color to this sign up, we are provide a white color for this thing. So we are providing this blue color which we have used at the top. So we are going to use a color literal for this thing, like this border color again we have defined over here. Now this is done. Let's change a little bit on this button. So the text color should be like blue, and background color should be like white. Now let's run this thing and check that it is working fine or not in our case. Then we will create a global function for this thing, because we don't need to write this code again and again for every button which we want something different from that sign up class or that custom button class. So this is working completely fine. This is a sign up and this is a sign in, and it's completely looking cool now. This is showing some kind of radius, and this is not showing some kind of shadow, and this is not showing any shadow. So that's really looking cool now. Now we have to create one class over here, and what we can say that we need to create one group, or we can say that folder. In this we are going to write extension. So the name of the folder should be like extension, because we are going to create this thing as an extension of button. So let's create one class in this extension folder, and in this we have to write UI button plus design, because we are going to rewrite all the functions regarding designing of button in this class only. So simply just copy this thing, simply cut this thing, and we need to write UI kit, something like this. And now we need to create an extension of UI button over here, UI button, something like this. Now we have to create one function over here, func, and you can define any name, just like set design button, or we can use design, something like this, and just paste the code over here. And we are going to just simply simply change this thing to from with self, or remove this thing also. So for that I am pressing Alt key, and this will provide a vertical selection to us. Just simply remove this thing and it will work fine in this case, something like this. Now we have to make this button a configurable thing, because everyone don't wants this border color should be like blue only, or width should be remain this thing same. We also need to change this thing to self, like this. Now we have to make this thing a little bit configurable, like border width, something like this, and it is of CG float type, CG float. But if we left this thing over here, just give let's define the color also. So border color, it's of UI color type, something like this. But if we left this thing over here, then if anybody wants that border color should be blue and border width should be 1, then he have to define that thing. I only want that whenever user wants to change these things, So for that, just define the default values of this border width to 1 and color to that color literal blue one. So the color literal, this one, this blue one. Now let's change this thing to border width like this, and change this thing to border color like this. So if user just call this design button with any button, it's showing that we need to provide a CG color, I guess, CG color like this. Yeah. So if user just call this design button without any parameter, then it will take a default values with border width as 1 and color as blue. And if user want to change these things, then he definitely need to provide these parameters. So just we can simply test this thing over here, like in view.load. Okay, this method is in view.load. We have to button sign up. We only need to call that method which we have created over there, and that the name of the method is design button, just something like this. We don't need to provide any parameters because we have set it all these things on that button. Or if you want to change the anything, just simply press control and space, so it will come up with all the other things which can pass. So we can also pass border width and border color, and if we don't want to pass anything, it will take a default things. So let's run and check that it is coming or not with the thing. Okay, it's showing an error. CG color, I guess. Yeah, maybe some mistake is happened over there, and it's a part of our development. We can learn by mistakes, definitely. And yeah, you are looking that app didn't pass anything, and it will automatically taking the default values. Now let's move to the next part, and that is we have done with this thing. Maybe the height is something different, width is something different, but yeah, you can change that thing according to your needs. Now let's move to this sign up screen, and it's a little bit complex screen if you are a beginner, because there are various things. There is a logo, there are 3 text fields, 2 buttons, and some kind of UI with having some shadow on this view, and there is one view with which is almost a half of the screen size, all these things, and there is a one more button and this uh, label. So there are various things in this screen. So let's look in this screen. So now let's create one more view controller, or take one more view controller. So just simply remove this thing and drag and drop view controller over here. Now we are going to create a sign up screen on this view controller. So before proceeding further, we need to add a navigation controller so that we can move on the click of this button to the sign up screen, because it required a navigation controller. Navigation controller is work on a stack, and that means it's work on a last in first out. So if you don't know about stack, please go and read it out something on about the stack on the Google. And now let's add a navigation controller. So I'm using a Xcode 10.1. There is a we can add a navigation controller from over here, just like this. And if you are using a older version, then you can go and just click on this editor and band in, and there is a navigation controller. Please select a view controller, and this option will be available for you, just like simply like this. Now you can go and add a navigation controller on this view controller. Now just click on the sign up button and just press control and drag and drop on this controller and click on show. So it will automatically create a segue, and now we can directly push from this controller to this sign up controller. Now let's design this controller first. So for designing, we have to first take a scroll view, because the screen which we have which we are going to create maybe scroll in small devices, and it's a quite big screen. There is lots of data, so it can be scrollable. So let's first take a scroll view. So for taking a scroll view, just simply type scroll view and drag and drop the scroll view over here, and give a basic constraints to the scroll view, just like from all the 4 sides it should be 0, something like this. This 0, and the height is not there, width is not there, something like this. Now let's take one more thing, that is a UI view. And if you don't know anything about scroll view, how to manage the scroll view, how to create a scroll view, then you can go and watch out my video on that. I'm having a video on that also. The link of that video was mentioned in the description. You can go and check it out. Now we have to fix the height of this scroll view first, then we can change this thing according to our need. Now it's still showing a red mark that there is something missing. So for that we need to provide a equal width with respect to scroll view to this view. So this is equal width. So the error is gone now. You can check it out over here. Now let's design the screen. So for that we need to first take a UI view again, the blue view that was at the top of that image. So just simply take a view simply like this. You can go and check this thing again that there is a view. So for let's give it a color like this is a light blue thing, like something like this. So it's looking cool now. Now let's fix the constraints for this view, that is from all the three sides the 0 and the height should be like 260. That is good, something like this. Now take one image view and one label so that we can design that thing. Image view and drag and drop image view over here. Now let's give the size to this image view with equal to the screen which we have previously created, 120 120, this one. So it's also 120 120. Now let's give the image to this image view, this circle thing. Now let's make the constraints or give the constraints to this image view from height and width 120 120, and it should be center, horizontal and vertical. Now let's give a multiplier to this image view, that is 0.708. it's up to you, something like this, like 0.7. so it's something like this. 8 is good. Now let's take one label and something like this, and just drag and drop label over here, and we are going to do this thing that is a sign up. So we can give a sign up thing to this label. Sign up, just increase the font size to 22, just change the color to white, and that's cool. You can also change the properties, just like make it a bold thing or something like this. It's up to you totally that how you are going to create this thing. So it's looking cool. Now let's give our constraints to this sign up label. So from top it's 16, that's cool, and let's make it a horizontal center. So that's two constraints needed only for this sign up label. Now we are going to create this view first, that is a parent view for all these elements. So just take one more view and drag and drop view like this, something like this, and just get a height according to your need. So I think this is looking, height is completely fine. So let's give our constraints from this to the 40, from trailing 40, and from top first just don't give a top because we are going to give our top in some other way, something like this. Now we are going to give a top this view with this sign up. So let's drag and drop and click on this sign up. Now select vertical spacing, something like this. So all the constraints are satisfying. Now let's give the background color little bit change so that we are able to identify the things. So I just changed the background color and you are able to see the this thing perfectly fine, and there is no red mark, so there is no missing of constraints. Now let's look into the image again, and we are going to take 3 text fields and 1 button. So definitely we are going to do the same. Let's take one text field first. Text field, something like this, and just change the properties of this text field, just like height is not let's change first this thing like this one, and now we are able to change the height of this text field. So just change the height to 40, something like this, and let's expand this text field, something like this. Give the placeholder is full name like this, and we are having one more thing in this text field, that is a separator or some kind of a bottom line. So we are going to take this thing also. So for that, just take a simple UI label or UI view. I'm taking UI view for this thing, and just drag and drop view over here, and give the color to this view like dark gray or a light gray. It's up to you, and height should be like 1 pixel, something like this. Now we have to take these two things in a stack. So just take two things in a stack. So for adding this thing, just click on this stack view, and it will automatically adjust according to its needs. Like Now we have to give a height to this text, text field. So height should be like 40, something like this, and it will automatically manage the things. Now click on StackView, and we have to change one property of this StackView that it should be fill, and the spacing should be 0, something like this. So it will finally look something like this. And one more thing, that we are going to change the height constraint to 0.5. One is not looking cool. So now it's looking cool. So our one text field is ready. Now let's copy this StackView only and just paste over here. Just press Alt and drag and drop, so it will make a copy of this, and again make a copy of this text field. So it's completely fine. Now let's select all the text fields and just all the stacks and put this thing in a parent stack, something like this. So now our stack is ready. Just give the constraint to this stack. We don't need to give any constraints to that label or that text field. We only need to give a constraints to this stack view. So the constraint should be like 20 from left and right and 30 from top, something like this. So that's sufficient for this stack view, and we are created this thing in just 5 minutes. So this is really cool. Now just change the placeholders for these text fields. So the name of this placeholder should be like email, I guess, and it should be like password, something like this. So our basic things is ready, these three text fields, and the label is coming at the top because this is a third-party library you can use for this. That is a sky floating label. So we can use this thing. It will automatically push the placeholder thing at the top when user try to edit anything in this text field. Now we are going to take one button. So let's little bit increase the height of this thing, or we can do one thing, that the top space is very much. So let's reduce this top space to something like 10. So we able to get a 20 is good, yeah. So we are able to get a bottom space for that button. Now let's take one button also, something like this. Now let's just drag and drop a button over here and give a basic constraints to this button, like from bottom it should be 0, from left it should be like 30, from right it should be like 30, and height should be like 40, something like this. And the button is ready. Now let's change the text and text color and background color for this button. So the background color should be like blue, or we are going to create a class, so we don't need to define anything for this button. We just only need to define a class to this button. So let's so let me check that how it's but it's okay white. So there is no problem. Just give a default thing like this. Now just assign a class to this button. So that is a custom button class, simply like this. And one more thing, that we are going to make this button a half up and a half down from this view. So for that we need to change this bottom constraints for this button, and there is a super view, and that is its own. So we have to change the own y-axis. So just center y this thing, so it will automatically make this thing a little bit down. So that's really cool. Now let's give a background color to this button so that we are able to get the things something like this white. So it's cool. Now let's run this thing and check that it is looking cool or not. Then we will proceed further in creating a next button and that label thing, and just we need to provide a shadow to this view and a corner radius. So just click on this sign up, and as I click on this sign up, this is looking something like this. Now let's change the background color to, so this is a view which height is fixed and it's completely looking fine. There is no problem in this thing. Just change the background color to this view white, and now we have to increase the little bit height for this thing. So like 240 should be good, and we are going to increase the spacing between these stacks. So let's say the spacing is 10. Now we are going to provide a 20 spacing, so this will looking cool. Now we have to do one more thing, that we are going to make this button a little bit blue color, because the color is coming white in this on the simulator, and change the title to this sign up, something like this, so this is done. Now let's create this button. So for that, creating this button, just take one more button, that is simply button, like this. Now just drag and drop this button over here. Now let's give properties to this button. So we only need to provide one property, that is a spacing between top. So we are going to provide a 30 space or just like 20 space between from the top. Now rest of the things we are going to make. Okay, yeah, so there is a problem that it will attach with this super view, so not from this button. So just change the this constraint, or remove the constraint, and just press Control and drag and drop on this sign up button. So it will take a constraint from this sign up button, so something like this. Now we are going to make all the constraints with respect to this sign up button. So for that, just drag and drop on this sign up, and the leading, trailing and equal height, all the four constraints should be same for this sign up button with this new Facebook button. And I guess we need to change the text color for this button also, that is white. You can also define all these things on that class, so we don't need to define over here. You can define these things on that class also. Now we need to give a color to this button and the title. So the title is like sign up with Facebook, something like this. So this is something not looking exactly same with this thing. So we can do that thing like just change the background color of this button also first. So the background color should be like dark blue, and the text color should be like white. Now we need to make this thing sign up with Facebook a little bit small and some different color, and the Facebook. So for that we are going to use a attributed string. So just change the color first like gray, dark gray, and just select the thing which we are going to reduce the sizes. So just click on this thing, and the size of this thing just like 12. So it will look something like this. And now let's increase the size of this Facebook thing like 16. So it will looking cool now. Just change the color for this sign up only thing. So the color of the sign up is like light gray, and the color for this Facebook like white. So it's now looking something like what we are having in this image. So this is a attributed thing, and we can use this thing various places, not over here. We can do this thing via coding also. Just change that vertical spacing between these buttons to 15, because the space is looking so much. Even 10 is also looking good. Now we need to make this thing a little bit more look something like this. So for that we are having remaining this thing, as well as the shadow is also over here on this view. So let's add a shadow, as well as we have to make this thing a circle, just like a corner radius. So let's run and check that what is left in the on this screen. So sign up, and it's looking cool. It's not scrollable definitely, because the width the height of the view is fixed, and that is a correct way. If we run this thing on a SE, then definitely the height is small, and then it will provide a scroll on that screen. We are going to run this thing on SE also and check the thing. So before proceeding further, first make this corner radius over here and the shadow on this view, and make this view just like a top view without any shadow. So for that we need to create one class first. So for creating any class, we have to create one more folder, new group, that is a controllers, something like this. So we have to add all the things regarding controllers, regarding any class. We need to add this thing on this folder only. So just click on this thing, and this is a sign up view controller, and click on next, and just create this thing simply like this. Now assign this controller, just remove this thing and assign this controller to this sign up screen, so that we can create outlets of all the things in this class. So this is a sign up view controller, and give the storyboard name something like this also. Now let's open this thing in this way. Now let's take a view outlet, or we can also do like let's check screen. So we are having this view various places with the same shadow thing. So we can do like we can create one more class for this view, just simply like this. You are looking that we are having this kind of views with shadow various places, so we simply take a class and create this view with shadow. So for that, just move on the this designing extension thing, just click add one more file, new file, and just click on swift file, and this is UI view plus design, simply like this. Just create one more class and just change this thing to UI kit. Now the class, or we can also use an extension for this thing. Now we are going to create a class must be better thing. The class is just like custom view, and this is a subclass of UI view, something like this. Now just go and this custom button thing and copy this code and just come over here and just paste over here. So now we are going to set the corner radius, shadow, all the things same. Just change this thing to constant, just like 5 pixels, and shadow should be like same, and maybe the height should be like 0, and the color should be like dark gray, maybe a light gray. So that's really cool. Now let's assign this class to this view and check this thing, custom view, simply like this, and then run again this thing and check that it is working fine or not. Till that, we are going to take a outlet of that Facebook button. Okay, let's check this thing first. So the shadow is coming perfectly fine, with the corner radius is also good. So we don't need to write this code again and again. We only need to assign a class to this view, the view which we want these kind of properties. You can play with this shadow thing, because it's not an easy task to get a shadow on the curve thing. So you can play around and get a different things according to your need. Now let's make the sign up button a circular. Just create an outlet, so button Facebook, something like this. Now let's call one method which we have already created, button Facebook dot design, I guess design button, something like this. But in this design button we have provided a blue color and some other thing. So let's change all the things, just like we have decided. Oh sorry, we have to press Ctrl and enter. So the border width should be like 0, and the color is nil, because we are not going to provide a clear can be used. So UI color dot clear, not nil. Yeah, something like this. So we can do this thing and now run again. So we are going to check that that it will make it circular format or not. So this is completely fine. There is no button, there is no nothing, and it's looking cool. Just increase the size. It's not looking cool, I don't know why. So make it 20. Yeah. Now only two things are left on this screen, and that is this already have an account sign in thing, and these three. So we are going to cover this thing in the next video, as well as we are going to create this sign in screen also. Similarly, this is almost a same thing which we are going to learn, and in the next tutorial. So the only thing which is left on this screen, that we are going to check this thing in iPhone 10 only. Now let's check this thing in iPhone SE also, so that it will give a clear vision that how the things are looking in SE. You can also try these things on iPhone 8, 8 plus, 7, 6. It's up to you that how much devices you want to test with this thing, and it will definitely work in all the other devices similarly. So this is a auto layout thing which can be work on all the devices accordingly. Now let's till now simulator is running. We only need to add the already having a sign up thing. We're going to cover this thing in the next video. As so this is a SE iPhone SE. Now just click on this sign up and it will look something like this. So it's a little bit small thing, so just hide this keyboard, something like, and it will working completely fine, something like this. So it's all in. Yeah, there is one problem that we didn't make it a secure thing, so just make it a secure text field. So just click on this secure thing only, secure text entry, and that's fine now. So this is for today. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to get notifications of all my other videos. Thank you.